with our Board of Regents committee meeting shortly. Members, remember we're being streamed live, so you'll need to turn on your microphones when you're recognized and speak directly into the microphone so our virtual audience can hear you. Our first order of business is a swearing in of our new board chair, Misty Cordell. Regent Cordell, if you would please join Uma in the front of the dais, she will administer the oath of office. Thank you. At this time, I'm pleased to officially pass the gavel to the new chair, Misty Cordell. Congratulations, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to make this short and sweet because I know that Regent Aubrey's going to have a lot of questions today. I am so humbled and honored to have been appointed chair of this board. Do know that it is not beyond me that I am standing in the shoes of greatness. There's a lot of knowledge and wisdom at this table, at this round table, and I look forward to working with each and every one of these regents and learning from them because I'm on a crash course, guys. I think I probably have the lowest learning curve or the shortest learning curve of any of the chairs that have come through, and I do recognize that. I plan on reaching out to each and every one of the regents, learning and just putting myself on a crash course to do the very best that I can for the state, these students, and for our workforce. We've got a lot of work to do, and I'm up for the job, and I'm so thankful that you have granted me this position today. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Regent Meyer. On the behalf of the entire board and staff, although he couldn't join us today, I would like to thank Regent Solomon. He is probably watching us live streamed right now. He has sent us so many texts. He was my very first phone call whenever I found out that I had been appointed, and to have his support is a blessing, and I'm so thankful for that. And to call him a mentor and also a friend, so I look forward to working with him as well. We appreciate his leadership and guidance throughout our challenges and our many wins, and we look forward to seeing him at our October meeting. If you're listening, Chair, we love you and we miss you. We will now get started with our committee meetings. First up is the Audit Committee. To meet the quorum, I'm appointing Regent Sterling to the Audit Committee. And Regent Williams-Brown, will you please call the committee to order?
Thank you. I'd like to call the Audit Committee to order. Ms. Bentley Smith, will you call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Regent Seal, Regent Williams-Brown,
Here.
Regent Creed, Regent David,
Here.
Regent Finley, Regent Weil, and Regent Sterling. Here. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next up is item 3, the audit presentation. Mrs. Bentley Smith, please proceed.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Kristen Bork and Laura Swallow from Eisner Amper, who will discuss the following items. And I will send it over to you, Kristen. Laura.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. As mentioned, let's see, during today's meeting, we will cover a few housekeeping items related to our internal audit contract, and then we will present the results of our fiscal year 2025 risk assessment and present our proposed internal audit plan for approval. We'll start with the contract items. As you all recall, in May of 2023, PNN merged with Eisner Amper. As we completed our contract work for fiscal year 24, we continued providing those services through our PNN entity. With our contract starting for fiscal year 2025, we will be engaging as EAG Public Sector, LLP. That really doesn't change much other than the name and the branding that you see in the materials and reports that we present to you. Your internal audit team will be the same, and the approach to our services will be the same. All right, moving on to the internal audit charter for review. So the statute that requires the establishment of an internal audit function for the Board of Regents also requires that that internal audit function adhere to the Institute of Internal Auditors international standards for the professional practice of internal auditing, which in our world we refer to simply as the standards. The standards require that an internal audit charter for the internal audit function is established. The internal audit charter is a formal document that defines internal audit's purpose, authority, responsibility, and position within the organization. And as part of our contract with the Board of Regents, that contract or that charter does require annual review and approval. We have reviewed the internal audit charter, and we've made some minor updates to the charter to align with the new global internal audit standards. So again, the IIA, the professional body that sets the standards that we follow in performing our internal audit activities, has reviewed their standards, and they've made a few changes to their standards, which will become effective in January of 2025. Part of those changes include a new model internal audit charter. And so as we made updates and reviewed the charter for Board of Regents, we applied those changes as stated in the IAA's global internal audit standards. The changes really don't impact kind of how we operate, how we interact with regents. It's really just kind of formatting and the order of presentation and some of those types of things. I also want to cover internal audit independence. The global internal audit standards also require or state that internal auditing is most effective when the audit function is independent and internal auditors are free from undue influence and really objective in the work that they do. And so one of the things that we do to be able to demonstrate that we take this very seriously is we assess our independence in serving as the outsourced internal audit function for the Board of Regents. And based on that exercise that we performed, there were no threats or impairments to our independence or objectivity as defined in the standards. So I'm going to hand it off to Kristen now, who will talk through the risk assessment.
Thanks, Laura. Yeah, I will now provide you guys with an overview of our annual risk assessment process and present the proposed internal audit plan for the year. So on an annual basis, the internal audit function is required to facilitate a risk assessment process to assist us in developing a risk-focused internal audit plan for the year. Our procedures to complete it this year were similar to prior years. We conducted interviews with key personnel and select members of management and the board to gain a deeper understanding of any high-risk areas of the organization. We utilized our audit universe, which is just an inventory of all the auditable areas within the organization. We utilize that to perform these procedures. And utilizing the information that we gathered from our interviews and our procedures, we developed the initial internal audit plan for the year, which we will request approval for today. So based on the results of our risk assessment procedures, we've identified 2 areas for our proposed plan at this time. The first being an assessment of the Regents and LOSFA audit structure reorganization that's been recently implemented. And the second is just an assessment of the LUMCON vessel operations, focusing on the processes related to the computation of that vessel's daily rate. Once these 2 audits have been completed, our team will reassess the internal audit plan for the remainder of the fiscal year, giving consideration to risk, discussions with management and the audit committee, as well as remaining contract dollars. Any audits that may be added to the internal audit plan would be presented to the audit committee for approval. In addition to the 2 audits shown here, we will also perform follow-up of observations identified during audits in prior years and their corresponding management action plans. Any questions related to the internal audit, the proposed plan?
Thank you both. Members, we have 2 votes on this item. Is there a motion to approve the internal audit charter renewal? It's moved by Regent Sterling. May I have a second? Second. By Regent Finley. Any discussion? Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Is there a motion to approve Eisner-Amper's internal audit plan for fiscal year 2024-25?
Second.
Second by Bob. By David, okay. Any discussion? Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Next up is item 4, approval of the internal audit contract for fiscal year 24-25. Mrs. Bentley Smith, please proceed.
Yes, ma'am. Per Act 314 of the 2015 regular legislative session, the Board of Regents is tasked with having an internal audit, which, as defined by what Laura said earlier, by the Institute of Internal Auditors, is an independent, objective assurance consulting activity designed to add value and improve the operations of our agency. With that being said, the Board of Regents have contracted with EAG, also known as Eisner-Amper, to conduct our internal audit, and we are requesting approval for their contract.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve this item? Motion by Regent Sterling, second. Second by Regent David. Any discussion?
Unrelated
Okay.
necessarily to the approval of the contract, but this is for the current fiscal year, 24-25?
No, sir, this is actually, the contract that we have with EAG/Eisner-Amper is actually a 3-year contract. It began July 1st, 2025, and it goes until the end of June 2027. July 2024 to June 2027.
24, 25, 25, 26, 26, 27.
Yes, sir, 3 years.
So this is for, since we're already under contract, a 3-year contract, this is for
The next time.
the purpose of approval of the contract is for what?
If you chose not to do it, we would have to break the contract with Eisner-Amper, and they are aware of the situation.
Well, why would we break the contract?
We would not break the contract, but Regent Aubrey, I leave it.
So so I'm going to make sure I'm trying to help. If we have a 3-year contract, do we also approve it annually?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then just an approximate, I understand there's a schedule, number of hours, the number of test samples. What is an approximate fiscal impact? What is the budget for our audit?
Truth be told, we get a very good deal with Eisner Amper. It's $127,000 a year for all of the work they do.
Okay. And then with regard, when, I don't remember, which board meeting do they come and present the reports annually? Which meeting is that approximately?
That is throughout the year as engagements are completed, and we've reviewed the results of those audits with management and obtained their feedback on any management action plans, then we'll come and present those. And so it really just depends on the duration of each audit and the timing of board meetings.
So there's no consolidated audit that's submitted to the legislative auditor that encompasses the entire fiscal year? You
No,
bring those based on the respective samples of the departments or the LUMCA or whatever you're testing, but you don't do a comprehensive audit and submit it as like one comprehensive report to the state auditor?
No.
Not for the
No,
internal
not
audit
for the
work.
internal audit. No, the legislative auditors do one for our agency annually, as is prescribed. You know, that is their role, but we're also required to do an internal audit, as is every single agency within the state.
Got it. So this is not external, this is your internal.
This
Got
is
it.
our internal, yes,
All
sir.
right, thank you. No more questions.
Any further questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Is there any other business to come before the committee? Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn? Okay, Regent Sterling and Regent David. Any discussion? Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion passes. We are adjourned. Chair Cordell?
Next up is the Finance Committee. Regent David, thank you for leading us through this very productive day of budget hearings yesterday. That was a lot to take in. I would like to appoint Judy Williams Brown to the committee to help us make a quorum. And Regent David, please call your committee to order.
Thank you, Chair Cordell. All right, Mr. LaBruyere and Ms. Bentley Smith, I'll give this to you guys. Can we call the roll?
All right. Chair David?
Here.
Chair Muir? Here. I'm sorry, Vice Chair Muir. Regent Creed? Regent Seal? Regent Temple?
Here.
Regent Williams Brown?
Here.
Supervisor Storns? Supervisor Tarver?
Here.
Supervisor Noble?
Here.
LCTCS representative? You have a quorum.
Thank you. We'll now move to item 3, review and acceptance of the financial year 2024-2025 operating budget. Matthew, can you tell us all about it?
Yes, sir. So yesterday, the Finance Committee met and received information from Commissioner Byra from the Division of Administration about the upcoming shortfall in state budget and ways that they're looking at solving that. In addition to that, we heard presentations on current year budgets and future fiscal year needs from Lossville, LUMCON, the UL system, the Southern system, LSU system, and the LCTC system. The chart above you is the appropriation amount for all of higher education, and this was given to us by the legislature in June, and you voted on it in June for the approval of the allocation. On the next slide, this is the changes that went into the FY 24-25 operating budget. Just a review of what's been talked about before. The changes in state funds from just under $70 million in state general fund and $19 million reduction in statutory dedications. And these are the changes that started with the executive budget all the way through the legislative process. On the next slide, this represents the budget allocations on the top table, and these are what the systems presented on yesterday. And then the bottom table is the expenditures by categories of personnel service, operating expenses, other charges, and acquisitions and major repairs for each of the systems. And so with that, we lead into the staff recommendation that senior staff approve, accept the fiscal year 24-25 operating budgets.
Thank you so much, Mr. LaRiere. Is there a motion to approve this item? Regent Temple, second by Vice Chair Meir. Any further discussion or questions? Regent Aubrey.
Yeah, she already juiced me up, Regent Cordell, this morning, so I'm ready. So these are, that the board, at least, when we get to the board meeting, that I would recommend approval. These do not include the 19 or 25% potential scenario. This is what legislature appropriated institutions are
Correct.
prepared to as is. And
Yes.
until we get to that number, whatever it is that we're charged, then the institution will come back with those
And
adjustments.
this is the current fiscal
Yeah,
year.
this is the current year.
The bad year is going to be next year.
Yeah, the
Based on what
19
we
to
heard
24% scenario is for next fiscal year, for FY '26. But what we're discussing today is the current fiscal year we're in.
And these do not take into account to any of the adjustments in enrollment or anything that may need to be addressed?
It gives, so on the, let's see, go back a slide. On, well, yes, on the top slide, the top table, you'll see for self-generated revenue, that is the authority that they are able to collect. So we typically don't collect all the way up to that $1.76 billion number, but it's the authority that they can collect. So, and if there is any difference, the institutions will budget against that. But this is the amounts that they are able to collect throughout the year and receive
By systems.
by system. Yes, sir.
And so if there are any adjustments, they will make it within the system.
Correct.
So
Yes.
it will not be, we won't be back operate long as they stay within these confines.
Correct. Yes, sir.
If the legislature through joint budget or whoever gives them more money, if the revenue estimating finds more money and give them more money, or give us more money, will there need to be any amendments?
That'll be done through if there's any additional adjustments, if it's through joint budget, it'll be at the system level, and if they do request one that needs to go to budget committee, that typically comes to us before it goes to budget committee. But if it's during the budget process, so if they increase self-generated authority through the supplemental bill, that's usually handled through session and then done at the end of the fiscal year and does not come through us.
And Matthew, am I correct, next month in October in our meeting up at Natchitoches, we're going to discuss 2025, 2026 proposed budgets?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Those be the dealing on, based on what we heard from Commissioner Barra yesterday, that's talking about the shortfall and how to address that, correct?
Yes.
All right. Any other discussions or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The motion passes. Any other business to come before the Finance Committee?
Regent David, I just want to make one comment that this now completes the board's work for fiscal year 25 budget development. As you mentioned, next year we will begin the process of FY '26 planning, where the board will adopt the recommendations for FY '26 to present to the Division of Administration by November 1st.
Thank you so much. Thank both of y'all. Hearing no other business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second? Second. All right. Any opposition? Hearing none, we are adjourned.
Next up is Facilities and Property Committee. Regent Aubrey, would you please call your committee to order?
Thank you, Chair Cordell. We'll now like to call the Facilities and Property Committee to order. Good morning, Mr. Herring. Would you please assist by calling the roll?
Good morning, yes, sir. Chair May, Vice Chair Weil, Regent Aubrey,
Here.
Regent Levy, Regent Meir,
Present.
Regent Seal, Regent Temple,
Here.
Supervisor Stearns, Supervisor Tarver, Supervisor Noble, LCTC representative. We have a quorum.
All right, thank you, thank you. We're now under item 3, the consent agenda. There are 2 items. Small capital projects report from LSU Ag and LSU A&M. So, Chris?
Yes, sir. These are just two small capital projects that were received and approved since our last meeting in August. These projects occur on a monthly basis. I'd be happy to answer any questions on either one. Otherwise, we recommend approval of the consent agenda.
Okay, you heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve these two items?
I move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Regent Mears, seconded by Regent Temple. In discussion? All in favor that we approve this consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item, number 4, Act 959 projects, Sewella Flight Training School and Maritime Training Center. Chris?
Yes, sir. Again, Act 959 of 2003 allows institutions to pursue capital projects outside the capital outlay bill as long as the project does not exceed $10 million and is not funded with state operating funds. So we've received 2 requests from LCTCS on behalf of Sewella. The first one, as mentioned, involves a flight training school that will be built on the main campus there in Lake Charles. As most of you know, Chenault Airport is literally right outside the back door of the institution. And this project will build a new hangar on that site, as well as provide paving to connect to the existing taxiway behind the institution. The total cost is $5.5 million. They received a grant from the U.S. Economic Development Administration in the amount of $3.5 million, and an additional $2 million from the city of Lake Charles that had a bond referendum. Again, it's a 12,000 or so square foot hangar facility. They'll have some conditioned space in there for offices, a small parking lot, fencing, lighting, and sidewalks in the canopy area. The second one involves construction or renovation of an existing facility at the Port of Lake Charles for a maritime training center. The port has dedicated a portion of property over there for the institution, and this project will renovate a 34,500 square foot facility to provide space for industry-based certifications and customized programs focusing on maritime safety, security, regulatory compliance, hazardous material handling, and technical systems. There'll be a variety of lab space and classroom space included in the facility, marine vessel simulation labs, and some offices as well. This is being funded by a community development block grant in the amount of $5 million that was awarded to Lake Charles after a hurricane. And I'd be happy to answer questions on either one of these. Otherwise, we recommend approval of the 2 projects.
Okay. Thank you. Well, you heard the recommendation. Is there a motion that we approve the Act 959 projects submitted by Sewella? So moved. Well, for motion? Noble. Yep, from Noble. And seconded by Regent Temple. Any other discussion or questions? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Other business.
Yes, sir. 2
Update
items.
from the Hurricane Francine, and then also just give us a little update on your capital outlay tours.
Okay, will do. As mentioned, Hurricane Francine, hit the coast a few weeks ago. A federal disaster declaration was issued on the 17th of September, which allows institutions to access FEMA dollars in addition to ORM insurance proceeds. So that declaration will obviously help the institutions as they seek to rebuild. 7 institutions in Lumcon reported damages from Francine. The institutions overall fared very well from the storm. The majority of the damages were from wind-driven rain and water intrusion from leaking roofs and exterior building issues where water was able to get in through that route. But remediation contractors were on site immediately after the storm. Sedgwick, the adjuster firm for the state, was out there in the days after to work with each institution developing their claims, and the claims process have been submitted. So the 8 entities that were affected are all submitting claims for the damages. But again, I guess the most damaged, I hate to use the word damaged facility, but Nichols sustained the most water intrusion. About half their buildings were affected, and they lost their electric metering system, which was set back up over that first weekend, where they're set up on estimated billing because they're not able to meter it at this time. It was a 60-year-old system that was damaged through that. Lumcon, a lot of the doors on the first floor of that facility were damaged, and a lot of damage to docks. One dock was washed away as through the storm, and then the other damages, like I said, primarily wind-driven rain and water intrusion. South Louisiana Community College campus there in Morgan City had some damages to the rooftop and HVAC units that are up on the rooftop. But again, claims are being made for all these damages. I'm happy to answer any question on Francine. Otherwise, I can move on to the next update.
Any questions? No. All right, go ahead.
Okay. The second component, before we get into the capital outlay visits, as mentioned yesterday by Commissioner Barra, the Act 751 projects, everything is in place. We're beginning to see projects concurred in by FP&C, so we're moving forward. And this is just kind of a snapshot of the projects that are being funded and moving forward with this year's $75 million that was allocated.
The deferred maintenance. Deferred maintenance?
Correct. Okay. Correct. These are with the $75 million for deferred maintenance this year, these are the types of projects moving forward across all systems. So as you can see, there's 91 projects in total. That represents 17 at LSU system, 16 for the LCTCS, 19 at Southern system, and 39 at the UL system. And it captures exactly what these funds were meant to do in terms of, roofing issues, ADA, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, infrastructure projects, and then there's some other projects mixed in addition to one demolition and 2 renovation projects. But I'm happy to answer any questions on 751. Otherwise, I will continue to update the board as we make progress moving forward.
All right. Any questions? No action required on the reports, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
And the last item would be update on the capital outlay visits. We've been to a handful of universities. We were on the Southeastern and UNO campuses this most recent Monday of this week. I've also been to UL and McNeese thus far, and over the next month or so, month and a half, we'll have more upcoming visits. I know some of you guys and gals were planning on going to the North Louisiana visits, and we had to postpone those because of Francine. We had those rescheduled. I'll send out an update to the board this afternoon with the revised dates, and also have dates for the Southern University system locked in. So I'll let everybody know that this afternoon. But they're going well. We've had great attendance from each institution's local delegation, and again, I highly encourage you guys to attend if you're able to do so.
I appreciate you, Chris, for sending that information out, and Commissioner Reed for your leadership and encouraging us to participate. It's important for those campuses to see us and for us to have that direct access to put our eyes on many of those projects. There's definitely some needs out there, particularly in the deferred maintenance, and excited to see a lot of that work go underway. I've been on a few of them and looking forward to some of the others. So, all right, is there any other business?
No, sir.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Regent Temple, second Regent Mayor. All right. No questions. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Meeting is adjourned.
Moving right along, next up we have the Academic and Student Affairs Committee. Regent Sterling, would you please call your committee to order?
Thank you very much. I'd like to call the Academic and Student Affairs.
You need a mic.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Regent Sterling.
Here.
Regent Creed. Regent Aubrey.
Here.
Regent Finley.
Here.
Regent Pryor.
Here.
Regent Williams-Brown.
Here.
Regent Orr.
Here.
LCTCS representative. LSU representative. Southern representative. Here. And UL system representative. You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We will now move to item 3, the consent agenda. Dr. Denley, please proceed.
Thanks so much. Yeah, so consent agenda is sort of 3 pieces of category today. Some routine staff approvals. You can see there are several programs that campuses would like to take fully online, and so we include those as part of the routine staff approvals. And then also there has been a request to add a new English proficiency test for international students to be able to demonstrate their English proficiency. And so again, this just simply adds some extra flexibility to campuses. On the second item of consent agenda today is our annual approval of the course articulation matrix. So this is the Rosetta Stone, if you will, for campuses to know which courses correspond with which courses. I do want to take a point of personal privilege to say a huge thank you to my staff for their work on this. It is incredibly detailed and arduous work to work with all of the campuses to make sure that they know exactly which course aligns with which. This year we added more than 30 courses to the articulation matrix because of the universal transfer pathways that we have created. So again, ongoing work, but incredibly valuable work. I know this board takes very, very seriously the fact that we want to make sure that across our state, students can be assured that when they take a course and then they transfer to another institution, that course really does count in all the ways that it should. And a huge thank you to all the campuses for all their hard work in making that happen. Then the last item on the consent agenda is the State Articulation Reciprocity Agreement, or SARA as it's affectionately known. This is a national reciprocity agreement that allows our campuses to be able to offer degree programs online in other states, and for institutions in other states to be able to offer programs here in Louisiana to Louisiana residents. This is, it has been in place now since 2014. Louisiana was a very early adopter of this reciprocity agreement. Every 2 years we have to renew that approval, and so that renewal is today on your consent agenda. So with that, senior staff recommends the approval of the items on the consent agenda.
And Dr. Denley, just to clarify, on SARA, that's every state with the exception of California. Is that accurate?
That's
Just
correct. That's
for the
right.
board to be
49
aware.
states, and then also Washington, D.C., and Puerto Rico.
Yes, thank you. And again, thank you for your continued work on the course articulation matrix. That is saving families money.
It is.
I'm actually not on the committee, but why with the exception of California?
Yeah, so California has chosen not to be a signatory to that agreement, and so, yeah, I'm not sure that I can exactly express why it is that California doesn't want to do that, but they...
Do we have any California schools that are in Louisiana?
I don't believe we do.
Okay.
Maybe I can phone a friend. We do? Thanks. So I am as often corrected, and so, yeah, so that to offer... Because they are not part of the reciprocity agreement, there's a separate process that we have
Gotcha.
to work with them. So, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you. Members, we've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Regent Williams-Brown, second by Regent Orr. Thank you very much. Any other discussion or any questions? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion passes. Dr. Denley, please move forward with your report on the 2024 statewide strategic academic planning.
Thanks so much. So, yeah, so each year we ask our campuses to go through a strategic academic planning process exercise for them to be able to, first of all, assess what it is that the needs are in their region and across the state, and ways in which they can make adjustments to their academic portfolio. And then we ask them to provide to us a 3-year plan of those proposals and explain the ways in which those degrees would then align with those needs. This is, I think, we've well understood, a really important part of the work that this board undertakes, and an incredibly insightful change that this board put in place back 3 years ago. Again, across the country, it is, there are hardly any states that are in this place. Instead, typically speaking, degree programs would come to your approval one by one by one by one without having the ability to have that overarching strategy. We, as part of that process, go through an exercise of looking to understand what are the strategic gaps that we have across the state, what are additional capacities that we need as higher education here in the state of Louisiana to meet the unmet occupational needs across the state, what are the greatest needs, and then we work that list in very close partnership now with all of the regional EDOs, with Louisiana Economic Development and with the Workforce Commission to make sure that we, as a state agency and this board and across the state, are all fully aligned in understanding what are the additional capacities and the most pressing needs. What is the best and highest use of state dollars in investing in our capacity across the state? This year, we received 57 new program requests, programs of interest proposed by the institutions across all 4 systems. I want to make it really clear, in today's report, we are not approving any new degrees. To be approved, each of those 57 degree programs would need to come to you with a full-blown proposal process, just as we always do. And in those proposal documents, there are very detailed ways in which, on the one hand, how it is that they would meet the fiscal obligation of being able to, on an ongoing basis, sustain such a program, why it's a good fit with that institution, how it meets a regional need, how it is, whatever the occupational outlook for that program might be, and how, in a curricular way, they would be meeting the needs of graduates and their potential employers. We would anticipate, just as we have in the recent past, somewhere around a third of those programs actually getting across the finishing line during this coming year and coming to you for approval. Some of those programs will be considered at our next meeting. I really do want to compliment the campuses on their work this time around. They overwhelmingly have aligned what it is that they are bringing forward with those expressed occupational needs. It is not the only work that is happening across the campuses to meet those needs. Clearly, we have many existing degree programs, and there are all kinds of opportunities for them to reposition those existing programs, but it is the case that they are also, in important ways, looking to create both regional and statewide additional capacity. I want to reiterate the fact that all of these plans have been reviewed by system management boards as well as the regional EDOs and Economic Development and Workforce Commission, because it is so important for us to make sure that this is a team effort. And I certainly want to take the opportunity to thank my colleagues, the 4 system CAOs, and all the hard work they've done in their own systems to be able to knit all this together. And as I say, these campuses are requesting permission to plan, but they will still have to bring their programs forward, just as always. It is the case that this proposals of new programs is also not happening within a vacuum of not thinking about other aspects of this work. And as part of the package of information that we provided today is updates of 126 degree programs that have been approved at some point some of them over the last decade, and the process and progress that they are making towards being ongoing, in an ongoing sustainable nature. As you will see, some of those programs have now been deemed in a situation where we can cut them loose, that they should move on forward and we do not need them to provide progress to us anymore. Some are still in that process but are making good progress. You can imagine programs take a little while, just like many other things, to get to a maturity where they are self-sustaining. There are other programs that need some tender loving care, and in your materials we have made it clear which of those programs are in that category. We will be meeting with each of the campuses to discuss specific action planning steps that need to be taken on those campuses, and also asking for a detailed set of proposals by January 15th of exactly the intentions of those campuses around those programs. Similarly, there are 22 programs that are slated for termination that campuses have brought forward. This is part of ongoing conversations that we have with campuses around programs that have been in existence perhaps for some time, but are now no longer in a place where they are producing an adequate number of graduates, are no longer productive. Those 22 programs are the initial part of that work for this year. There are some other programs where campuses have already told us that their intention is to bring forward a recommendation for termination later in the year. They're just not at that place today. And the new cycle of review of low-producing programs is now also beginning, and we will use much the same approach, that there are campuses where they have programs that are low-producing. They have plans that are well in place that they believe will be able to make those programs be productive, and we would like to work with those. There are some other campuses where there are programs that, again, need that additional action step, and again, we will be meeting with them and also asking them for specific action plans by the beginning of the calendar year. So, with all of that, senior staff recommends that the board take the following actions: that you receive and accept the year one list of proposed programs of interest, that you receive and accept the list of program progress report actions, and that lastly, that you approve the requested program terminations that the campuses have provided.
Thank you, Tristan. Are there any questions for Dr. Denley?
Of course.
Of course. Regional.
Dr. Denley, as it relates to low completer, two things that I asked for. I did get the fiscal health scores by institution as well. Low completer programs, when will the board see those that are low completers that will be again reviewed, and any action plans that'll be coming forth? And then second, if there's possible, some of that are teetering, because I don't even know, is the low completer the same for a PhD program in counseling psychology or in a BS in English? Is it the same number? Some schools producing a PhD might only need 5 over a number of years, but English, we may expect something. So just...
So to address your second point, there are established thresholds that have been in place for quite some considerable time. And they vary a little bit by discipline, but broadly speaking, the threshold is 2.5 for a doctoral degree, a 3-year average, 6 for a master's degree, and then 10 for a bachelor's degree or an associate's degree. As part of the work that my staff are going to be undertaking this year is we want to revisit those thresholds. They were put in place sometime in the past. We want to make sure that they are that they serve the purpose that they do. I think we have learned a lot this year around the way in which we can have ongoing monitoring from a fiscal perspective. We would like to learn those lessons on an academic perspective. Similarly, the fact that right now we really only look at that one metric, like how many degrees do you confer in that? There are lots of other aspects to that which we think should probably be part of that ongoing process. Again, we want to do that work this year. I would like to really update this board at the beginning of the calendar year when I've had the privilege of being able to meet with those campuses that are in that concerning category, and then I can give a much fuller update about what are the action steps that they are proposing and so on. So that's
okay.
The plan right now.
That's fair. And has the Regents Commissioner, have we looked at that number? Is that a good number in today's time, just like we look at budgets? And we have to face the reality, at least we accept the data, that the numbers are going to shrink. And we're all asked to do more with less and all of that. So is 10 the number for an undergraduate degree, to be provided.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things we really want to revisit this year. That clearly, we're not doing this in a vacuum. There are other states that have other ways, similar way. The way we're currently doing it is actually very much the standard way that process happens. But we're really exploring, looking in a fuller way to understand ways in which we can be proactive about helping campuses. We don't want to get to a place where a program is on life support. We want to be able to work with a campus before that happens. Okay.
I would just add, Tristan is exactly right. I appreciate the point about fiscal health and academic health, sort of thinking about that as two sides of the same coin. We do recognize that in financially constrained environment, resource reallocation is going to be important. So being able to say, tell us about these programs that have low completers and the resources, and what about the state or the regional needs in your area, and would you like to transition some of these, terminate programs and start some new ones that really would meet workforce needs. So we'll be in a better place both to triple check to make sure that the cut scores are right, but also to have a conversation with each academic officer and each campus to say, here's what our numbers show, take a look at that and let us know. Bob will recall, has our history on low completer, many, I guess, years and decades of regents running a list against the cut score and sending it to the campuses and say, defend or we terminate, right? That's where we were. So we have a more sophisticated process, but we are in a situation where resource reallocation is going to be a reality. So I think we add a tool to the campuses when we take the time to do the analysis and to engage with them in this way.
Okay. And the reality is, it's also the case, and this is all part of this picture. As a state, we need every graduate we can have in all kinds of disciplines, and so for some of these degree programs, we really want them to be vibrant, productive programs, and so there's that aspect.
But we want them to also invest in what the needs are.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Not
Exactly.
just holding on to a program because we had gotten a faculty who was tenured and had not ready to retire yet. It may not be but anyway, that's a different conversation. Madam Committee Chair, I move that we accept staff recommendation as outlined.
I did have a question. Looking at the program terminations, and it looks like the Nichols State looks like is that a mass education programs that are terminated at that university?
Yeah, so that's thanks so much for that question. Nichols is looking to restructure their MAT program, so they are not eliminating all presence of the MAT program on their campus. They are restructuring that MAT degree, so rather than having half a dozen different separate programs, that they are consolidating into them in a single program that then will allow them to be able to provide that education, but in a much more effective and streamlined way.
So it's not as severe as it looks of elimination of education programs.
Yeah, so if the impression is that education is now being eliminated from Nichols, the answer is that is not the case. Yeah, no, thank you for the question.
Do we have another question? We have a motion by Regent Aubrey to approve the academic plan report. Do we have a second? Second by Regent Pryor. Any additional discussion or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Our next item is to review the Act 790 differential tuition for high-cost programs. Dr. Denley, please proceed.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so Act 790 of the last legislative session allowed the institutions of all four of the systems to create a differentiated tuition rate and differentiated fees rate for programs that are deemed to be high-cost undergraduate programs. They already had the ability to do that in the graduate world, but not in undergraduate world. And so the Act charges the Board of Regents to create that list of high-cost program categories, so that way the institutions would then be able to take advantage of that facility should they choose to. So important for us to realize, by us creating that category, it does not oblige any management board to take action to increase their tuition and fees. It just simply allows them the ability to be able to do that. And also, an important part of the act was that prior to imposing any such increase in tuition and fees, they have to establish criteria for waivers, so that way any student who might be adversely affected from a financial hardship perspective would be able to then avail themselves of those waivers and scholarships. So the list that is in your materials today was created in partnership with the 4 management boards. And again, huge thank you to the 4 chief academic officers of the 4 systems. We worked very closely to do that. And to create the list, we looked sort of holistically in what it might mean for a program to be high cost. As you look down the list, some of these programs just require very, very small sizes. So, I think about a commercial driving license. That's about the smallest classroom you're going to get. It's just you and the instructor. That's the way it is. And so some of these programs have very small class sizes. Some of them require really expensive equipment, laboratory kinds of things, heavy goods vehicles, all kinds of just really expensive facilities to be able to do that. And then lastly, often there are simply faculty salary aspects. Some faculty we know simply get paid more than others from a market standpoint, and so there just simply are specific program accreditation or faculty salary kinds of aspects to this. And so we've tried to take all of that into account in bringing this set of high-cost categories together. As you look in this list, you'll see that lots of these programs also live on the strategic occupation list. It is somewhat ironic, the fact that the things we need the most also turn out to be the things that are the most expensive. On an ongoing basis, if we will include in the program proposal materials, if a new program is brought to you for approval, and it is proposed to be high cost but is not one of these categories, then that would be part of future action that this board might need to take. And if and when we get there, then we would cross that list. But as things stand, senior staff recommend the approval of the lists of high-cost undergraduate program categories for differential tuition authority according to Act 719.
Thank you, Dr. Denley. In our prep, I just want to make a comment about, I think our potential budget cuts will potentially have significant ramifications on how our universities use this list.
Sure.
And so I think we certainly would hope that the free market would reign and do what it does, but I do believe that this is something that we will have to keep our eyes on going forward in the competitiveness of, if you think about what it might cost and the range across the state to get a nursing degree in our programs, as one example, but that certainly would apply to any of them. So I thank Dr. Denley and his colleagues for producing this report, but just believe that this is just the beginning and something that we'll need to keep our eyes on. Are there any questions from any of our other members? Is there a motion to approve this item?
So approved.
Second.
Williams, Brown, and Arbery. Any additional discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Dr. Denley, is there any other business?
There is none.
Hearing that there is no other business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Regent Williams, Brown, second by? Regent Pryor. Any additional discussions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. We are adjourned. Chair Cordell.
Thank you, Dr. Denley and Regent Sterling. Next up, we have Statewide Programs Committee. Regent Pryor, would you please call the committee to order?
I'd like to call the Statewide Programs Committee to order. Dr. Butte, will you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Regent Pryor.
Here.
Regent Creed, Regent Cordell, Regent Levy, Regent Weil, Regent Orr.
Here.
You do have a quorum.
Okay. Thank you. Our first action item is item number 3 on the consent agenda. Dr. Boutte, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, members. This one is a little bit different. This is rulemaking to add a financial circumstances addition to the exceptional circumstances that come to you. You are already able to grant a student an exception for instances where a parent is laid off, a parent is fired, a business is damaged, and that family's financial circumstances dictate that the student who is on TOPS needs to stop out work to help support the family. You can already do that. Since 2019, we've been seeing an increasing number of exceptions where it is the student's income, not the family's income, that we're considering. Some examples. Let's say the student has one parent. That parent dies. That student no longer has that support from that parent. So there is no parental income to consider. A student has one parent, and that parent is incarcerated. That parent cannot help the student. A student has a parent that is on SSDI, and as you know, that limits the amount of income you can earn. That parent cannot help the student. We are also seeing increasing incidences where the student's beliefs do not align with the parent's beliefs, and students are being kicked out of their homes with no support. So it doesn't mean that the parents couldn't support them. They just aren't supporting them. So this financial circumstance rule change, if you pass it, would keep the financial exceptions based on parental income, need to help the family. It would add financial circumstances based on we're now only considering the student's ability to pay. And the only reason that the student cannot attend, cannot make their hours, is because they do not have the ability to pay. Now, in these instances, just like all others, the students would have to provide us with documentation of these facts. They would also have to provide us with a plan to say, okay, going forward, we can't just continue to grant you an exception. How are you going to right the ship and be able to pay on your own? Know that LOSFA Advisory Board, we brought this to them. We discussed it. Fortunately, we have a very strong advisory board that has multiple members of financial aid offices at higher education institutions, both public and proprietary. We used their wisdom in this, and they suggested that shouldn't go forward with this without the plan being included, because we wanted to make sure that whatever we ask you to approve and them to approve is aligned with what a student would have to do if they went to the financial aid office on their campus. These students could be independent students, they could be dependent students. It will all depend on the circumstances. If you approve this rule going forward, these are exceptions that would come to our committee internally, then to our advisory board, and then to the Board of Regents.
Okay, members, you've heard the recommendation from the LOSFA Advisory Board. Is there a motion to approve this agenda, this consent agenda? All right, a motion, Ms. Judy, and there a second? Ms. Cordell?
All right.
Are there any discussion or any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The motion passes.
Okay.
Next item is item number 4, a presentation on National Recovery Month and our state's newest.
No, sir, I have a few more. Usually I do them all, but since these were a little different, I thought we might want to take each one of them at a time, but
Okay,
you're
go ahead,
correct.
Ms.
Normally
Boutte.
I would be done. Okay, so we have the second one that's a little different from what you've seen before. This is an approval to grant a request for exception to get a qualifying score for TOPS, Opportunity Performance or Honors, no later than the national test date of April. Okay. The student in question that is requesting this exception has taken the ACT several times, trying to reach a qualifying score for Opportunity Performance and Honors. The student took the test in February. That was the most recent test before the April cutoff. After April, if a student takes the test, they can take the test again in June. They can take the test again in July without us coming to you. It has a 1 semester penalty. In this student's case, they signed up to take the July test. The test location was changed. The student did not receive any notification of that change. So the student and several others showed up at the location on their registration, and there was no one there to administer the test. So for this reason, these again are circumstances beyond the student's control. We did receive documentation from the student, documentation from ACT, and in very rare form, ACT refunded that student's registration. That pretty much tells you that they're concurring that, yes, that something went amiss and the student did not receive notice that the test location had been changed. So this allows this student to try and take the September test. Will it still have a 1 semester penalty? Yes, it will, because the test was taken after high school graduation. And per the statute, any test taken after high school graduation has a 1 semester penalty. So the student would get 7 semesters of TOPS as opposed to 8. But what you're doing, if you approve this, is allowing that student to take this September test and have it count as a qualifying score for TOPS.
Okay.
Do you want to go through the other two,
Yeah.
or you want to? Okay.
I can do that.
We'll
Okay.
take it.
All right.
You want to take them all together?
That's
Okay,
fine
go
with
ahead.
me. Okay, but these first two were a little unusual, so I didn't just want to plow through and go, oh, no, this is not the same. Okay, now we're back to the usual subjects. These requests for exception here are TOPS home study exceptions. You do have the authority to grant this. This is circumstances beyond a student's control, meaning they entered home study after the conclusion of the 10th grade year or after the beginning of the 11th grade year. There are 2 requests for exception that we're asking you to approve. The advisory board has approved these as well. And the last category is a category that we generally bring to you. These are TOPS exceptions and MJ Foster exceptions. So these are exceptions to the requirement to enroll continuously, to earn the 24 hours with respect to, and to remain continuously enrolled. There are 15 TOPS exceptions and 2 MJ Foster exceptions. MJ Foster is simply the continuous enrollment because you don't have a 24-hour requirement for an MJ Foster recipient. So that concludes the exceptions, and the LOSFA Advisory Board has reviewed all of these, and they recommend approval.
Okay. All right, members, you've heard the recommendation from the LOSFA Advisory Board. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Mr. Levy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Orr. Any discussion? I would say that I would start it off. I really like these exceptions and that you're treating people on a case-by-case basis. On the home study program no later than the 10th grade, I was kind of concerned that this rule, what if a student became pregnant or something, her junior or senior of high school, and had to go to homeschool or a home study program, or was sick, or, you know, since the pandemic, or mentally, whatever is the
Yes.
issue, or bullying. We have a lot of
Yes.
that, and
Yes.
don't want to go to their normal school.
that they would be cut off from TOPS if they do that their 11th or 12th grade year.
Exactly right. And before the legislature gave you the authority to approve these, you're exactly right. Students in those situations were denied TOPS.
So that's been cured.
Yes, by this change in the law and by your approving this. So this is how you got that authority. We continue to bring things to the legislature's attention saying, it is up to you, it's your prerogative whether you act upon this, but we think you should know.
And I'm really happy about that. I'll be quick. I know there in Caddo Parish schools, the school psychologist, there's one parish school psychologist, she's been there for decades, and she has told me that up till the pandemic, she'd have about 30 cases a year of students with issues, and now since then it's been 900 a year, and her work has, immensely changed. So, students, I'm glad we are amenable to moving with the circumstances of students.
You are. And notice you're amenable on the front end for a student to qualify for TOPS. You also are amenable on the back end for continuous enrollment if a student requests an exception for mental health concerns, and we've since, through a rule change, broken that out so that when you ask us that, we can tell you how many there are. We can tell whether there's a trend increasing, and that's a great segue because we do share that data quite frequently.
And last question I have, and I'll move on. What is the appeal process from those that are denied an exception? Do they go to the
There
Board
isn't
of
an
Regents,
appeal
or-
process past you.
Okay.
You are the final word.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions or discussions anyone has? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The motion does pass. Now we go to National Recovery Month. As they get adjusted, our next agenda item is item number 4, a presentation on National Recovery Month and our state's newest collegiate recovery programs. We have Assistant Commissioner for Student Health and Wellness, Dr. Allison Smith. Raise your hand.
Hello.
All right, good. With us to present this item. Dr. Smith, please go forward.
Good morning, everyone. I was going to get Bree to assist me. Like Suwan mentioned, this is a great segue as we're here to celebrate National Recovery Month through the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, which began observance in 1989. It focuses not only on recovery from substances, but also from mental health issues. In October of 2021, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration launched their Office of Recovery, which has been very exciting to see happen. And she's painted out fans that will be popping up on campuses all across our state. What they do is if you press the little button on the side, don't get distracted by our lights, they scroll the 988 helpline number. And they talk about sharing is caring, and that Louisiana988.org, so that students on our campuses can know where they can get and receive help if they're having a substance use or a mental health crisis on our campuses. All right, one of the things that's really key about our celebrating National Recovery Month, why are we here to talk about this if we're talking about colleges? One of the things that we do know is that one of the biggest reasons that college students, sometimes beyond financial reasons or other life occurrences, stop attending colleges due to substance misuse. And so according to a 2019 study by Welsh, Shintu, and Sarvi, substance use among college students is associated with numerous negative outcomes, including lower academic performance, a higher probability of unemployment after graduation, and an increased risk of committing and experiencing sexual assault. And so what we're doing, one, is doing our part to make sure that our campuses are safe, supporting environments for our students who are in recovery and those that are seeking help. The Office of National Drug Control Policy in their National Drug Control Strategy released, one of their goals is to have increase the number of collegiate recovery programs by 25% by 2025.
I'm sorry. We're like 12 years old.
I said they may get distracted by the lights. I said it.
Right now, we just need to take
I'd like to say I predicted that.
Mine is broken. Okay.
We will get you another one. We will get you another one.
And that is actually,
Need help.
Yes.
And look, y'all are supposed to be educated. Don't give out stuff.
I
until
told
you're
them to-
done with the presentation.
but actually, he
It was such a
interrupted.
great segue, right?
He actually
Because
interrupted because his was broken.
No,
That's it.
I just
Make
saw
sure it works.
everybody.
You got it.
Please check it, check it, please check it.
And so.
This one works. Thank you.
So we'll say, and I'll point this out, we got that through our really great partnership with the Louisiana Department of Health, Office of Behavioral Health, who fund all of our substance use prevention work and collegiate recovery work that we do through the Board of Regents. And so those will be one of our student giveaways. One, because those are not things that students will toss. It is hot in Louisiana. We're thinking Spring Fest, homecoming, tailgates. They'll have those out there, and also being able to share that messaging as well on our campuses. Last year, I was able to be a part of the convening at SAMHSA with a group of national subject matter experts and produced a report which talked about the priorities for collegiate recovery, because they highlighted the need for collaboration with local, state, and federal partners being critical to expanding access to collegiate recovery for our students. One of the reasons our state was invited, I was invited to participate on behalf of our state, is our unique partnership being situated at the Board of Regents, but funded by the top health agency in our state. This is not a very common model, to have a higher education prevention coalition housed at a governing board for higher education, a coordinating board, and then funded by the state's top health agency. What we see from that model, something we've been very glad to see, is that the Department of Education is also starting to take that look. The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration has been pushing for collegiate recovery, and as much as it's a communal behavioral health issue, it still happens on campuses, which you can't really get the full impact without having education at the table, being able to serve those students well. So this year in January, the Department of Education released a request for information on substance use issues in mental health in higher education. For the first time ever, they asked higher ed, what do we think about the issues among substance use and mental health in college students? There was overwhelming response, for which the Board of Regents submitted a public comment on that issue as well. Very glad to see this about a week, 2 weeks ago in The Advocate. If you happen to read this story, one of the young ladies is featured here next to me, but we have staff from multiple collegiate recovery programs across Louisiana. We have staff from Line Up Recovery at Southeastern, from North Shore Technical Community College, Tulane Collegiate Recovery Program, from Grambling State University's Collegiate Recovery Program, and then their fiscal administrator with Florida Parish's Human Services. So not only are we working with the Board of Regents, working with the Department of Health, we're also working with the local governing entities or regional behavioral health offices in all of your districts to make sure that, because I come back to Baton Rouge after I go to these places, do trainings, all of that, I come back, they need to be plugged in, connected. So if they're at Grambling and they need some assistance during Narcan training or any of these other things, they need to know that they need to call Dr. Montique Sizer and Kara Etienne at Northeast Delta Human Services. That's the people who they call to partner with their local communities while we're here in Baton Rouge. This particular graphic, I know you're probably used to seeing it in orange in multiple of our presentations, especially if you've ever heard Tristan talk about the master plan. But I wanted to highlight that not only are all of these today's students, but those students also may be in recovery. We are seeing a growing number of first-time freshmen across the country entering into our colleges in recovery. We don't have any recovery high schools here, but there is a National Association of Recovery High Schools, which has a large concentration right over next door in Texas, where we tend to get a lot of our out-of-state students from. So making sure that our campuses are set up to receive the students that are coming to us in the coming days. A phenomenal speaker at our annual summit this year in May, one of my favorite people on the planet. Her name is Christina Canfield. She's the Executive Director for the Association of Recovery in Higher Education. She often shares that she is one of those people that has been formerly incarcerated or has justice system involvement, because sometimes we know that the throes of addiction can take people to really horrible places in their lives. But because she was able to get connected to a collegiate recovery program, she was able to have a second chance at life. She has her master's degree, and she's leading a nationwide movement meeting. Literally 2 weeks ago, she was at the White House pushing for collegiate recovery, making sure that every college student has access to the opportunities that will help to change her life. All right. Yes.
So what area? You just mentioned
addiction and incarceration. What is the largest area that you're seeing the challenges in? Is it one over the other? Is it evened out?
It's not, but what we have seen is that when we've seen students in collegiate recovery and alumni from those programs, once they're able to get the recovery support services that they need, they've had phenomenal success. And I'll talk about some of that success, and I'll highlight some of those people in this very room that have had some of those same exact experiences, same exact things, but they're still here. We know that once they get the support, there's a lot of research about collegiate recovery. One, they tend to have higher GPAs than the general population. There's, participating in a collegiate recovery program in college reduces the relapse cycle by 15 years. So there's a lot of great information coming about it, and Annette will talk about it a little bit when we talk about Southeastern's program. So through the partnership with Southeastern, Florida Parishes Human Services, and Louisiana Department of Health, for which we provide technical assistance, we have a snapshot of some of the students enrolled in our 6 collegiate recovery programs across the state of Louisiana. Of those 103 students, we have 22 that are graduate students, 11 that are law students, and 4 of them are military connected, whether that's ROTC or they are student veterans themselves. And so we see that it doesn't matter that it affects all walks of life. And then next we see that there have been over 51 support meeting held, whether that's AA, NA, Smart Recovery, Dormer Recovery, Celebrate Recovery, Al-Anon, all kinds of meeting held across our campuses. And then there's been over 31 community events held with Narcan trainings and distributions, which have become increasingly popular on our college campuses. And one of the reasons why that particular issue has taken off, the DEA reports that as they've seen an increasingly illegal drug supply, where a few years ago, every illicit pill they confiscated, 4 out of 10 had a deadly dose of fentanyl. That number has since risen in 3 years to 7 out of 10 pills. And the only thing that reverses a fentanyl overdose is Narcan. So whether college students tend not to utilize opioids at the rate of the general population. So if a student says, well, I don't really perceive that I have a risk because I don't take opioids, but if you bought what you thought was a real Adderall and it's not, you would be at the exact same risk. And so making sure that our campuses are equipped to respond to overdose situations and making sure that our students are trained, our messaging to them is only take your medicine as prescribed and dispensed from a trusted pharmacy. Your friend is not a trusted pharmacy, so only taking it from a pharmacy. And then they've distributed over 2,400 pamphlets, pieces of information, and/or Narcan kits on their campuses. So I mentioned that I'll talk about some of those stories. And Regent Finley, I'll get into some of them here. When it comes to recovery and workforce development, you'll hear from Annette in a second, and her colleague Brian, who also works up at Line Up Recovery in Southeastern. They are both people in long-term recovery who have amazing stories, who are giving back to help other students in recovery. And Brian is also enrolled at Southeastern getting his master's in counseling. What we tend to see that students that successfully participate in collegiate recovery programs tend to go on to get graduate degrees in helping fields. Brian is also a graduate of the Line Up Recovery program at Southeastern. In the middle of that photo, we have Jacob Goldberg, who is the program manager at Tulane University for their collegiate recovery program, who is also a person in long-term recovery. Nice guy on the right, it is Josh. He is a May 2024 graduate from LSU with his master's in social work. A graduate of LSU's collegiate recovery program, who is now a substance abuse counselor in a rural parish in our state. Right, and next we didn't get to keep Eric, so I'll tell you that, but he is now a public defender in the state of Washington as a recent graduate from Tulane University's collegiate recovery program as a law student. He talked about the difficulties and the challenges that would come with being in law school as a person who was once formerly homeless, who literally had hit complete rock bottom, and how that he didn't think that he could complete law school without being connected to the Tulane collegiate recovery program. And we want to make sure that every student at any campus in Louisiana has that opportunity as well. I share a couple more graduates from LSU we had this spring. Allie with her bachelor's in social work, Ramsey with his bachelor's in kinesiology, and then Amy with her bachelor's in sociology and philosophy with a concentration on law, ethics, and social justice from the Ogden Honors College at LSU. Couple more, because I definitely think that I really want to highlight that it is absolutely possible at any type of campus. So we have two amazing young ladies from North Shore Technical Community College. The young lady on the left, Norfisa, she got her high set, which is her high school equivalency, while participating in the Collegiate Recovery Program at North Shore. She is now currently enrolled in the 2-year Applied Sciences Associate's degree for business and technical studies at North Shore. The young lady in the photo with her, that is Madison. So random, they have a history of Madison's over at the Southeastern program. You'll see in a second. She finished with her associate in general studies, but she is also now transferred over in the same Tangipahoa Parish over to Southeastern Louisiana, where she is now working on her bachelor's in social work. And she's a part of the Line Up Recovery Program. So going from her community college program, Line Up Recovery, to over to the 4-year institution in her area, still being able to maintain her recovery supports. And then on the young lady picture with me, I say young lady, but she has a lot of life experience. She is one of our adult learners who finished with her bachelor's in social work. She graduated from Southeastern this past spring as well. I'm sorry, she graduated with her master's in counseling. And so 5 years ago, I told you there's a history of Madisons here. I think they may have the nation's record for the most Madisons in the Collegiate Recovery Program. This was a picture of one of their students at the time, Madison, with Dr. Reed, when we were celebrating the launch of their program 5 years ago, the first one in the state of Louisiana. Before I turn it over to LSU, Annette for a second, I also want to highlight, I don't have a photo of him here, but Adam Singer, who is the Collegiate Recovery Program Manager at LSU, who's also a person in long-term recovery who's currently working on his PhD at LSU. And so, no, we have amazing success stories, and we are excited to expand this opportunity. And I'll turn it over to Annette to talk about Line Up Recovery, where they are 5 years later.
5 years later. I also have to thank out the work of Dr. Smith as well as OVH. They're sitting in the back. It's really because of the CRP expansion grant, we were able to hire coordinator support for the Line Up Collegiate Recovery Program. So we were able to add 8 additional students this summer to our program, which is big. So we're growing. We've doubled now because typically we were a small collegiate recovery of around 10 students total per semester, and now we've grown to 17 students. So, you know, I had no idea what I was getting into 5 years ago. I really thought, you know, if we had a couple of AA meetings on campus, we'd be good to go. But since that inception and the support of my administration, of course, now we have Dr. Wainwright over at Southeastern, which I believe he is super excited about what we do in collegiate recovery. You know, we've been able to engage on a national level, the Association for Recovery in Higher Education. I know Allison serves, I did serve as the Southeast rep. So we were able to completely engage. We're super excited to host the national conference here in New Orleans over the summer. So being able to really get involved in what is going on with collegiate recovery has been super, super helpful. But 5 years ago, you know, I didn't know we'd be growing to 19. I didn't know that we would see students not only complete our program, but go on to masters. And one of our students is over at Ole Miss. He's about to complete his PhD in history. Seeing our students stay to get additional degrees at Southeastern has been great. And what we have seen is completely what we were told as to what collegiate recovery would look like as far as students coming in and being grateful to have a second chance, as identifying as people in recovery. We've consistently seen a GPA, and a 3.29 was actually a low for us. Typically, we're around 3.5 or above as a CRP GPA. Then the other things that have happened is also being able to raise money for scholarships and endowments. Southeastern does give scholarships to students who participate in our program, so kind of build those fundraisers, as well as we do programming. Our students attend a seminar once a week, which is closed to them. And then we also do open support meetings as well for anybody on campus. We've done a ton of allies in recovery trainings, and just on Southeastern's campus alone, we've been able to put in the hand of students 223 kits for Narcan. just that's really been in the past year. But I think, is that, what else do I have?
There. And these are some pictures of events that they've held on campus, and I'll go to the Impact Project.
Yes, so Impact Project was new last semester, and this was to reach other students who may or may not maybe have more obstacles as far as stigma to be able to reach recovery. So we invited to campus some speakers, and we had a question answer session with, why are people of color having a hard time getting into collegiate recovery programs and or getting into recovery. So that was actually led by our student Jordan Cole, who was an ambassador for the SAFE Project out of the state of Colorado. SAFE Project is a nonprofit which stands for Stop the Addiction Fatality Epidemic, very resourceful. But they helped him implement that program. We're super grateful for that, and we'll be doing it again.
Yes. So in the SAFE Project, that organization started from a family who lost their son to an overdose in his dorm room, where there was Narcan present, and the roommate did not know how to administer it. So we want to be sure that all of our RAs are trained in Narcan use and things of that sort. Moving through people of time. They will have the first Louisiana Recovery Capital Conference on the campus of Southeastern through some partnership with Louisiana Department of Health in March of 2025. That was their amazing flyer from the 2023 summit as well. And I'll let Annette talk about their Roomy's Merry Market they have coming up.
We have a holiday market November 2nd, and that is how we raise money to scholarship our students, as well as pay for we do a fall retreat with all of the Southeast universities. So in fact, just last weekend, we had about 80 students in North Alabama, including LSU and Tulane, Mississippi State, Kennesaw State, University of Georgia, Athens also had their collegiate recovery program students, and we had a pop-up. I mean, I guess now that COVID is we've moved up, and people feel like people are engaging again. So that was probably one of the biggest retreats that we've had in quite a while. But yeah, feel free to come shop at our market. We have 80 vendors, and of course Santa will be there.
Also, I was going to say, think holidays if you do junior league, really, really big. But also, so one of the things I was really excited about, an annual conference I attend every year is the Association of Recovery and Higher Education, their annual conference. This year was the first year I was able to have other schools, like tons of schools with us from Louisiana. So there's representation in that photo from Grambling, from LSU, from Tulane, from Southeastern, from North Shore, from River Parishes, and from Northwestern. The young lady in the middle with the cream suit on, she's a student at Northwestern. We'll hear a little bit more about that in a second. And one of the things about the economic impact that this does for our state. So because we now have a critical nexus, a mass of collegiate recovery programs here, the annual conference for collegiate recovery will be held in New Orleans next year, June 25th through 29th. And then through our continued partnership with our folks at LDH, we have Amber Slater here, Dawn Diaz, and Felicia Johnson, who I've had the pleasure of working with for at least a decade plus. We are happy to announce a new expansion of our program for collegiate recovery in our state. We are happy to announce Louisiana's 2 new collegiate recovery programs at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette and Northwestern State University. Over the next 3 years, the 2 institutions will be awarded a total of over $750,000 to launch collegiate recovery programs and to support students in recovery on those campuses. And at this time, I would like to invite up Dr. Erica Calais from the UL system to say a couple of words on behalf of President Gallo. Yes.
So you spoke about the programs that you have throughout the year, and students who come to you and say, look, I need some help to process through my program and I'm in recovery. What do you do for the freshmen? How do you share?
So we actively recruit at student admissions events and through freshman classes. So if there's a freshman who's in recovery, we want them to know about our services.
That was my question. Like, I remember being obviously.
And I will tell you, I've absolutely had students say, I'm not ready now, but I'm so glad that this is here.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Because I definitely think this would be a good part for freshman orientation or something, just so they could know about it, like you said, to plant the seed.
We're in every syllabus at Southeastern.
I may have missed it, but what are the, which of our universities have, like, these two are gaining,
Yes.
right?
Grambling State University, I'm going with the map in my head, Southeastern Louisiana University. Tulane is private, but they have one. LSU has one. North Shore Technical Community College has one. And the Southern University Law Center, in conjunction with the Southern University main campus, also has one.
All right,
So the rest of our schools do not.
I'm about to say
Correct.
6 or 7 out of 29.
So
But
this will bump us up to 8.
This will be 8.
Yeah, this will
okay.
bump us up to 8.
All right, so that was my first question. Second question, you mentioned you all recruit. How do you recruit to a program like this?
Well, it kind of is attraction rather than promotion.
Right.
So we really have to increase our visibility. And we've really only been able to do that through funds available through this CRP expansion grant. We know that there's probably, statistically, at Southeastern, we probably have about 350 students on our campus in recovery, whether or without support. So we have really been able to ramp up our visibility with funds. But, we've done it is very much like recruitment and increasing visibility.
Yeah. Also, our local treatment facilities are amazing partners. So if they have patients identified that they know are attending a local university, or they're looking to attend a local university, say, hey, there's this institution, if you're in Hammond, if you're at a treatment center, say, hey, if you're thinking about going back to school, Southeastern has this recovery program. So one, they can give you some additional supports on campus. So I think our treatment community has been major in supporting, pushing students towards our way.
I'm going to tell you, housing and student advocacy, we work very closely with them. I'm going to tell you the most referrals we actually get from faculty. And I believe it was because faculty see our students the most.
All right, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Kelly. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Good morning, Chair, members of the board, and Commissioner Reed. On behalf of the University of Louisiana system, I want to extend our deepest gratitude for your ongoing support and the generous awards that will make a significant impact on our collegiate recovery programs. Your commitment to these programs speak volumes about your understanding of the unique challenges faced by students in recovery. By investing in their well-being, you not only help them to continue their educational journey, but also empower them to lead healthier, more fulfilling lives. These awards will directly enhance our institution's capacity to provide the resources, counseling, and peer support that are critical to sustaining long-term recovery. This support creates an environment where students can thrive, not just academically, but personally, building a strong foundation for their future success. Once again, thank you for your trust, partnership, and commitment to the health and success of our students. We look forward to continuing to collaborate with you, ensuring that every student in recovery knows that they have a place, a purpose, and a future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. You're welcome. Thank you. Are there any more questions?
I want to thank you, ladies.
Outstanding.
I've always, I know firsthand from my job as a district attorney in Caddo Parish, dealing with young people and drugs, and I always regret our new chair. One of my first early meetings as a Board of Regents member, I helped, I believe, rubber stamp something we did about LSU and Southern going into the weed business. And I've always regretted that, even almost 8 years later, that I didn't stand up and say, this is wrong. And now in my job, I see every day young people, young men smelling like weed, pants low, middle of the day, and slides, just aimless and addicted to marijuana. And and I would hope that you address in this program the rush periods of fraternity and sororities. That's probably the first time a lot of students get introduced to binge drinking and going with the flow, just like I did at that board meeting, and not standing up and saying no. So I want to thank that. It's so important. I see it every day. Now there's a new drug called a kratom or something. All the males are taking, and it's legal, and we're having to address that. So it's just it's never-ending cycle of people wanting to get high or drunk, and we need these programs desperately in all of our colleges and universities in this state. So I want to thank you all for that presentation, and to all that are involved in that. All right. And to our board members, this item was for informational purposes only. There's no vote involved. Other business. Is there any other business that come before this committee? Hearing none. Is there a motion to adjourn? All right, Ms. Orr, is there a second? Mr. Levy, thank you. And any discussion? Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion passes, and we are adjourned.
Thank you, and thank you so much for your presentation and all the work that you're doing. Next up is planning.
Thanks for these fans. We need them at the LSU game.
Yes.
Saturday.
Thank you for the entertainment for all of us to act like children for a few minutes. That was awesome. Next up is Planning, Research, and Performance Committee. Regent Williams Brown, will you please call your committee to order?
I'd like to call the Planning, Research, and Performance Committee to order. Dr. Craig, will you please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Chair Williams Brown.
Here.
Vice Chair Aubrey. Chair Cordell. Regent David.
Here.
Regent Levy. Regent Sterling.
Here.
Regent Orr.
Here.
Ma'am, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We will now move to item number 3, academic licensure. Dr. Craig, please proceed.
Yes, ma'am. So this morning for you, we have essentially one item, one vote, but it's about two of our Act 129 institutions. These institutions, some of them operate from outside of Louisiana and are licensed to operate here in the state of Louisiana, and some are actually located in Louisiana. In both instances, they are offering some online programs. And so the way that the process works, when a brand new school is getting ready to open up, you as a board granted a 3-year conditional license for these two schools to operate. Both of them are planning, well, one has applied and one is planning to apply to the Distance Education Accrediting Commission. And the DEAC, thank you, yeah, that's, I'm not there yet, but okay. They are, just to give you a little bit of background information, DEAC is an accrediting body for those offering distance education programs or fully online programs. These programs have, or the accrediting commission has very specific guidelines about the process that you go through to become accredited. And there are some activities that occur that could cause an institution to actually go backwards in the process and start that process over again. And that's really what's happened with these two institutions. So both of them were granted a conditional license in '21. Both selected DEAC as their accrediting the body that they would be working with. And this board approved them both for a 3-year conditional license. For both of them, they needed to have proof that an application of that accreditation was done by September 1st. And neither of them were able to do so through two specific reasons. In one instance, Robert Cavalier University enrolled students, but those students have to be enrolled for a full 12-month calendar year, and that was not able to happen. They have since applied for a candidacy on September the 9th. So they are in the candidacy process. For American University of Technology, they had an unexpected staffing change for their chief academic officer. Once that happens in the accrediting process, you have to kind of go backwards and start from when the new officer is hired, and then you move forward in the accrediting process. Both delays have been resolved. They both are meeting all of their qualifications. Robert Cavalier submitted on September the 9th. We expect the American University of Technology to submit early in November. And so we are asking, I clicked forward and it went, there it went. Okay, great. And so what we're really asking is for some additional time for these two institutions to actually work through the accrediting process that DEEC requires of them. And so we're asking, staff recommends approval to extend the conditional operating license for American University of Technology and Robert Cavalier University until February 1st of 2025. If their applications are filed and confirmed by the deadline, they'll continue on their original conditional license. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Members, are there any further questions? You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve this item? Regent Sterling, may I have a second? Second. Cordell. Any discussion? Any question? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Is there any other business to come before the Planning, Research, and Performance Committee?
No, ma'am.
Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes. Here.
Sterling and Gore second. Any discussion? Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion passes. We are adjourned.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have the Personnel Committee report. Regent Levy, would you please call your committee to order?
Thank you. I'd like to call the Personnel Committee to order. Matthew, if you would take the roll.
Yes, sir. Regent Levy?
Here.
Regent Sterling?
Here.
Regent David?
Here.
Regent Finley?
Here.
Regent Seal? Regent Temple?
Here.
Regent Williams-Brown?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. The first item on our agenda is the annual evaluation of the Commissioner of Higher Education. Matthew, if you'd explain to the group how this process works.
Yes, sir. Each year, we conduct an evaluation of the Commissioner of Higher Education. This is a 360-degree performance evaluation consisting of a self-assessment and planning session, a board assessment of the commissioner, and an evaluation session. The Personnel Committee carries out this function at the direction of the Personnel Committee Chair. For the self-assessment, the Commissioner provides reflections on the past year based on measures outlined in the previous plan and provides goals and opportunities for improvement in the upcoming year. This document is then submitted to the committee and board members for review. For the board assessment, members provide feedback and comments through a survey instrument. The committee chair then provides an analysis of the evaluation to the board members, and finally, for the evaluation process, the committee engages with the commissioner as we are doing today. Once the committee has completed its business, the board will vote on the committee's recommendations. Since this is a personnel item, the board may choose to go into executive session pursuant to RS 4216. Commissioner Reed has been given written notification of the executive session as is required under RS 4217A, and she has agreed to a private discussion. As you know, no action can be taken, nor any voting or polling conducting during the executive session. The executive session is for discussion purposes only. While this is an executive session of the Personnel Committee, as with all our other committee meetings, other members of the board are allowed to be present for the discussion. To go into executive session, we do require a vote by the committee, and to come out of executive session, we require a vote by the committee.
Thank you. All right.
Second.
I'm sorry, what? For going into executive session? Thank you. I appreciate you jumping the gun. Having that, there's a second, that we will need a roll call vote.
Yes, sir. Regent Levy?
Yes.
Regent Sterling?
Yes.
Regent David?
Yes.
Regent Finley?
Yes.
Regent Seal? Regent Temple?
Yes.
Regent Williams-Brown?
Yes.
You have a majority vote.
Thank you, Matthew. We'll now go into executive session and adjourn to the Thomas Jefferson Room, which is across the main lobby over there.
Room C on the other
C.
side.
Okay.
I will guide you there if need be.
That'll be fine. Thank you. We will now adjourn, and all members of the board, please attend. Executive session and to resume our public agenda, and that needs to be by voice vote. If you would do that for us, Matthew?
We need the motion.
Now, but let me first say that no action, no voting, no polling occurred during the executive session. And now I move to conclude the executive session and resume our public session by roll call vote.
All right. And who was the?
Who seconded?
Okay. All right.
Any opposition? Then let's
Okay.
have a vote.
Regent Levy?
Come out of session, yes.
Regent Sterling?
Yes.
Regent David?
Yes.
Regent Finley?
Yes.
Regent Seal? Regent Temple?
Yes.
Regent Williams-Brown?
Yes.
It passes.
Okay. Now we need a motion to accept the evaluation of the Commissioner of Higher Education. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any opposition, any questions, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, to say nay. Motion passes. Thank you. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Yes, sir.
Lunch.
I'm going to take that as an affirmative vote to adjourn. Any opposition? All right, lunch, as it's so delicately put.
32 minutes.
All right, members, this concludes our committee meetings. We will now break for lunch in the Iowa room, and we'll return back to our Board of Regents meeting in an hour. Oh, about 1:15. Guys, so take your seats. We're going to call us to order. I'd like to call the September Board of Regents meeting to order. Members, remember that you're being live streamed, so you need to make sure that your microphones are turned on and close to your mouth. So when you're recognized, speak directly into the microphone so that our virtual audience can hear you. Now we'll do a roll call. Doreen, would you please do the roll call?
Regent Aubrey,
Here.
Regent Cordell,
Here.
Regent Creed, Regent David,
Here.
Regent Finley. Here. Regent Levy.
Here.
Regent May, Regent Meir,
Present.
Regent Orr,
Here.
Regent Pryor,
Here.
Regent Seal, Regent Solomon, Regent Sterling, she's here, Regent Temple,
Here.
Regent Weil, Regent Williams-Brown.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right, thank you, Doreen. Next up is public comments. Are there any public comments? Hearing none, I'll ask for any additional public comments under other business. Members, you received a copy of the August 28th meeting minutes.
So move.
Thank you. Seconded by Regent Levy. Any discussion or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next to reports and recommendations of standing committees. Next, we will vote on all of the committee reports and recommendation together. However, if any board member wishes to take up any committee report separately, please let me know and we can consider those individually. Is there anyone who wishes to take up the committee report separately?
Madam Chair, congratulations again. Looking forward to working with you. I do offer a motion that we accept the committee reports A, B, C, D, E, F, and G all together.
In Globo. Okay, second?
Second.
All right. Levy and Temple tied. Okay, any discussion, any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We move to the chair's comments. I think I pretty much gave my comments, but I do want to add real quick, because I know time's tight. I'm willing to give my cell number. I do want to talk to each and every one of you. I want to be as active as I possibly can. I know I'm in North Louisiana, but I am not too busy to drive down here. I'm pretty much mobile, so you guys just feel free to tell me what I need to know, what you think, if there's any roadblocks, anything, anyone I need to meet with. I'm happy to do that. Let's stay in very close communication. I'm going to need each and every one of you. There's a lot of wisdom at this table, and I want to take full advantage of that, and I certainly appreciate your support. Okay, next we will have the report.
But also,
Oh.
just a suggestion, I think it would
Sure.
be appropriate if, I don't know if the governor has appointed all the chairs, particularly for higher education, but I think it would be good at some point when you're comfortable and to have a meeting with the other higher ed management board chairs, just to extend a goodwill on behalf of Regents and see how we can work together as we go through a real or perceived crisis that is
That's right.
coming our way.
It's going to take all of us working
It'll
together.
take all of us, and I think that would be a good gesture on behalf of Regents to invite them.
I will be happy to do that.
Are you going to meet with the governor too, with
Oh, yeah.
all those folks, yeah?
We'll have to work on that too. I think we have a meeting with him on the 8th, I believe. Okay, next we will have Kennedy's report.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. So this past, was that September 14th, we had our first COSP meeting with all the Student Government Association presidents across the state of Louisiana. It was very successful. We were supposed to be in person at Shreveport. Susla was supposed to be hosting the meeting, but due to Hurricane Francine, we had to move to a virtual platform, but it was still a very productive meeting, and we got a lot of things done. I shared some updates on behalf of the Board of Regents, and I was also able to receive some more information on what's going on at the different systems. Very productive. We have brought back committees, so that hasn't been done on COSP in a while. So these different committees include executive initiatives, external affairs, research and development, and legislative and academic affairs. So all the different presidents were put into their different committees and learned, you know, what their duties are, what the purpose of the committee is, and hopefully moving forward throughout this next year, we have some amazing initiatives coming from these committees that we can bring forward to the state of Louisiana. They've developed a resolution to, on behalf of like voting. So unfortunately, my internet cut out because I was on the way to Jackson State and we were in the woods. So, you know, once you get in the woods part, you're not going to have great reception. So, but from what I've read from the resolution, it's, you know, to help with voting and making sure that students are able to participate in this year's election and future elections without having any type of academic you know, issues or things like that in terms of attendance. We also have another initiative that we're working on in terms of syllabus banks. So once I get more information on that and once we, you know, finalize those things, I'll be happy to share them in my future reports. But other than that, everybody is recovering from the hurricane, you know, voting initiatives continue. Voter registration continues to be a big drive at the different campuses. And so far, we are having a great start to the academic year. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing, regional work.
Do all of the HBCUs have a voting location?
Not 100% sure.
Okay.
Yep, we can't find that out. Yes.
Like a voting like where they vote?
Some of them are designated voter sites.
Oh, gotcha.
And so my question was just if each one of them.
I know we have one on Southern campus.
I know Southern is, but
yes.
I didn't know that.
We should be able to get that from the Secretary of State.
Yeah, and Grambling, because the voting sites are actually approved at the parish level and the registrar of voters and all, so they had petitioned, and I think the parish had agreed to assist them in getting a location on the campus. But I'll get the latest. That was something that they worked on this spring, so it's pretty relevant.
Okay. Okay, next, staff retreat. Last month, the Board of Regents staff kicked off their new academic year with their annual retreat, August 28th, at the Automotive Training Center at BRCC. Not only was it an opportunity to come together as an agency staff, but it also provided an opportunity for the Regents team to see various BRCC training programs up close and to hear from inspiring messages from Dr. Donna Beagle, the dynamic leader who lived in poverty, earned her GED at the age of 26 and her PhD 10 years later, and is now doing training and research on how to move people from poverty to prosperity. As we do every year, Regent staff donned their school colors at the retreat to celebrate National College Colors Day and promote higher education and attainment. In Leadership Baton Rouge, Commissioner Reed's schedule continues to be jam-packed. She's everywhere. With speaking engagements, on September 15th, the Commissioner was in Baltimore for the Lumina State Policy Retreat, where she delivered a fabulous keynote speech and received a standing ovation. Last week, she discussed the master plan with the current leadership Baton Rouge class. Next, Tristan on Capitol Hill. Finally, Deputy Commissioner Dr. Tristan Denley is quickly becoming one of the nation's foremost experts on artificial intelligence within higher education, which does not surprise us. On September 18th, Dr. Denley traveled to Capitol Hill for a panel discussion on how AI can and will support higher education campuses and students. The briefing, hosted by the American Council on Education, in coordination with Senator Cassidy's office, brought together various experts to discuss the use and integration of AI on college campuses and its impact on our institutions, as well as students, faculty, and staff. And Master Plan Year 5 update. Now moving on to item 7, the Master Plan Year 5 update. Commissioner Reed, the Master Plan is truly our North Star, and each year in September, I know the board looks forward to hearing about our progress toward achieving our 60 by 30 goal and how we keep the momentum going. So now I'll turn the mic over to you to tell us more about this.
Thank you so much. So we are always excited to take a look and see where we are in the master plan. Dr. Denley will be sharing the update for us, but we are excited about the progress. We have a clear path to victory.
We do.
I think it's a really important opportunity for us to thank the campuses and the faculty, staff, students who are really working so diligently to bring us to this success point. But much more work to do, Madam Chair. So with that, Tristan, I appreciate you and the team for the good work. You have a copy of the plan at your seats, and you also have the What They're Saying document, which highlights some of the quotes regarding the endorsements of the master plan as well. So Tristan, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, so as the commissioner and chair both share, so each year we walk our way through an exercise of really taking stock of where we are, where we've been, where we're headed. I'm very happy to let you know our progress towards our 60% goal. Here we are. This is the new figure. We were last year at 49 51.5%. This year, we are at 51%. So 50 years ago, we anticipated this, that we would cross the 50% mark on our 50th year. That would seem like that was the right thing to do. So, yeah. And so several high water marks. So the first is, as we say, this 51%. This is for our population 25 through 64. For our younger students, for 25 through 34, this is more like 54%. We don't yet know what that looks like regionally, but I think you'll remember that the last data that we had said that we were leading our region for those younger students, and we anticipate that that will probably be the case again. You can see another high water mark there on the chart, 73,461 completers. This is 73, north of 73,000 people who completed in a year. You can see our eventual goal of 85,000 that was set up back in 2019. We are really close to that now. If we continue at the same increasing rate as we have been, we will get to this 85,000. Similarly, when it comes to our North Star of 60%, sorry.
It's such a big deal. I mean, when we announced, some of you guys weren't here, but in 19, when we announced this master plan that was our amazing commissioners' brainchild, this entire staff's work, the Standard & Poor's rating system said, like, our credit in Louisiana is going to be rated higher just because our goal was that, just because we had that lofty goal, and now we're attaining it. We're going to have better bond rating. We're a better bond rating going forward because of this.
COVID, everything else. I mean, in the midst of all the challenges, and I remember thinking,
I know. It's good to have lofty goals. It's good to have lofty goals. Yeah.
You know the same thing over there. I was like,
is that a vote of no confidence?
When we first announced it, I was like, yeah, let's go get it. And then COVID happened, and the numbers were looking like they were looking. I was like, I don't know. The fact that we are moving.
And some bankers in New York who are bean counters say they could just tell if you do this, you're going to have a wealthier population. You're going to have a population with less poverty. You're going to have a population with less incarceration. If you can do this, your whole state's going to be better, and doggone it, y'all are doing it. It's amazing.
No, I think I can just go sit down now. I mean, you just said it. Well, because the reality is that, exactly, as you say, when this was set out, it was an incredibly audacious goal. It's still a really audacious goal. There's plenty of states in the country that have goals that are similar, and that's all they are. They're just goals. This is not a goal. This is a destination for us. It is the case that we are going to get to this goal. And as the commissioner said, it is the case that we have a plan, that we have a path to victory. You'll see now, for some of you who've been sort of following this chart over the years, that the trend line didn't used to get kind of all the way to the top right-hand corner. It used to kind of peter out somewhere in the mid-50s, and then gradually we've inched up. It is now the case that if we continue to award credentials at the same rate that we did this year for the next 5 years, we will get to 59.2%. I anticipate that that rate will not stay constant and that it will actually tip up a little bit, and that will take us very comfortably to our 60%. So we absolutely have a path to victory, and it is a testimony to your vision on audacity and putting it out. And just as Regent David said, it is not just a number, right? The reality is that what we know is that our graduates go out and do the work in the state that needs to be done. Right now, 71% of our graduates are currently this year in business logistics, STEM, health, applied technology. Those are exactly the fields that, we've said are the absolute crucial fields to our economy. More than that, 85% of Louisiana's graduates are in 3, 4, and 5-star jobs. They are doing the work that we want them to do. Just as I shared in board development, we just don't have enough of them yet. That as we look at the distribution of credentials across our state, that there is this mismatch which we are addressing. That gradually you can see that this is why it's so important for us to get to our 60% goal, because it's already the case that 68% of the jobs that are being advertised are asking for the kinds of credentials which we, as a state, are looking to try to make available to our citizens. And so it's just utterly crucial. That 60% goal, it's an important number for us to have in our heads, but it is a figurehead to everything else that is going on underneath. So as we've said, I think all the way along, this has been a sort of a theme of today's meeting, that it is a team effort. There is no way for us to get to that 60% goal without all of the work that's happening across all of the 4 systems and their campuses. But similarly, it is a team effort with other agencies. And so I think this quote from Secretary Showen is sort of illustrative of exactly the support and the partnerships that we are now and have been building with the Workforce Commission, with regional economic development offices, with LED, with other state agencies, because the reality is that this is not something that we can do alone, and we don't want to do it alone. It needs to be done in coordination with the rest of the state. I do want to just take a few seconds to talk about to sort of really quantify what Regent David just said a few seconds ago, the impact that reaching this goal is and will be having in the state. It's first of all really important to see the earning capacity and potential of the graduates that we produce. We don't say it often enough. The reality is that across the state, for each graduate that we graduate, on average, that graduate will earn almost $1 million more in today's dollars across the rest of their lifetime than if they had stopped at high school. If they only earn a high school diploma, of course they will, sure enough, many of them will get jobs and they will go on and they will earn money with those jobs. If they get a credential, a post-secondary credential, on average, they will earn an additional $1 million across their working lives. That's a big deal. But more than that, it's also the case that they're much more likely to be employed. I think you heard as part of the presentations yesterday that right now our workforce participation rate is certainly not where we would like it to be. Education is the key to that. We know that the more educated those people are, the more likely they are to be part of the current workforce, and we want that to happen. And so they're much more likely to be employed. They're also, of course, much less likely to be impoverished. They're much less likely to be requiring state support in all of the kinds of programs that the state provides. Similarly, they're much less likely to be incarcerated. And then, even more than that, they're much more likely to live longer. So their life expectancy is about 4 or 5 years longer, and they're much more likely to be healthy throughout the rest of their lives. So yes, it is the case that they earn more money, but in general, just quality of life for people who avail themselves of higher education is just significantly better. Now, you can imagine that then has a significant impact across the state. As we look at the sort of the progress, which you can see is kind of on this upward chart, every time I unveil this, I'm sort of cognizant of the fact that it doesn't look like that much, right? You know, when you think about, well, we were at 47, then we increased by almost 1%, then another percent, now this year 1.5%. A percentage point here and a percentage point there, most of the time, throughout most of our lives, it's not that big a deal. Unless it's, like cutting interest rates by 0.5% or something like that. Here, it is of enormous consequence, because the reality is that increasing this population statistic across the entire state, every time we go up by 1%, that's roughly 23,000 additional people who have a credential in the state of Louisiana. That's the population of a small city. When I know some of you were at the game on Saturday. My image for you to take away is from the beginning of this chart to the end of this chart, everybody in the stadium having an additional credential, that's what we did. That's what we did. Wow. That's a big deal. And to think about it that way, to think about an entire stadium of people who now are all cheering because they all have their credential and will earn an additional $1 million across their lifetime. That's a pretty cool and a pretty enduring picture. And that's what you have done in setting out this goal. And of course, the reality is the work's not done, right? So there's another stadium full of people that we now have to engage to finish off the work.
Let me just make a comment, because I applaud, this is just a wonderful victory lap, to give some consideration to how do we evangelize this message. You know, is it a partnership between you guys and your community college person and your local college at each regional Rotary? I mean, how do we make certain that everybody across the state, number one, understands the goal, understands we're getting there, but then regionally continue to try to eat the elephant one region at a time?
I think getting it out to like lobby and some of our workforce,
Right.
this is going to drive businesses and
That's right.
to want to come to our state. I mean, that's a big deal. So economic development groups, that would be a great start just to get the momentum and kind of hype it up and get the excitement. And of course, taking it to campuses also. This is a lot to be proud of. Yes.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, the reality is that I think it is so easy for us to think of higher education as being only a personal benefit, right? That you go and you get your credential and you put your thing on the wall and it is something that impacts you. But it is so much more than that. The reality is that the credential that you earn has an impact on your family. It has a multi-generational impact on your family, but as well as that, it has an enduring impact on the state. You think about the additional 195,000 people who will earn credentials between now and 2030. Well, each of those people across their lifetime will earn roughly $1 million more, but that's $200 billion additional money that is going into the economy of Louisiana between now and 2030 and across their lifetimes. That's an additional $127 billion that is going to be, they will spend those monies, right? They will go into small businesses. They will go into all of the business across the state. They will contribute taxes towards the state coffers. And of course, it's also the case that because their quality of life is better, they will not draw on the state's resources for Medicaid and corrections and all of those kinds of things. This is an enormous impact to the state. And so I think the commissioner said this yesterday as part of the budget hearings, that the higher education is not part of the state's budget, which is just a give, right? Where they're giving money and getting nothing in return. It is an investment. It is an intentional statewide investment, that money that is invested in higher education returns to the state over and over and over. And so I think having that picture and helping people to see, yes, it is of a personal benefit, but as well as that, it is also something that we all benefit from because of the impact both today and in the future that it has on the life of our state. Now, as we say, we have a pathway to victory. The pathway to victory is the strategies that we've been now unfolding the last few years of increasing college going, improving college success, and sure enough, recognizing all credentials of value, not only the ones that we have traditionally counted. And so I do want to just kind of go through a few of the major milestones to that. Just quickly, there are many more details in the report. Dual enrollment has been a significant focus of ours throughout this work. We know that students are much more likely to go to college when they begin collegiate level study as part of high school. Some of that is on the academic side, some of that is on the technical side. 41,000 students being in dual enrollment. This is a massive high watermark for us, and it is, I believe, the third year in a row where we've seen double-digit percentage increases in dual enrollment. And again, an additional 1,000 African American students. This is again the third year in a row we've seen 4-digit increases in African American students taking dual enrollment. This is just, I think, a huge testimony to the all-in approach to dual enrollment. I think many of you know we have a dual enrollment task force that is extraordinarily representative across the state, and it has been that all-in big tent approach which has produced these kinds of results. Similarly, when it comes to college going, this will be year 3 of our promoting admissions strategy. Last year, we engaged sending emails to 13 parishes, students, making sure that students in all those parishes knew of the colleges that their test scores already meant that they could go to. This year, we will be expanding that to 20 parishes at least, 10,000 students, making sure that those students know of the possibilities for them. And then we're also working to create a college access network across the state, knitting together the efforts of community organizations who already are working to help students go to college, but really knitting them together with our efforts. MJ Foster, it's already the case that the early enrollment in MJ Foster is already very close to 3,000 students this year. As Dr. Sullivan shared, MJ Foster scholars, this is not a one time in the semester beginning, right? So we will have literally a rolling start to all of those programs all through the year. So we're already way ahead of where we were last year. Last year we ended up serving 4,000 students. This year we're already at 3, and I think we well anticipate that will be many more. I know you'll know that these programs are really important. So are the programs that you've heard about earlier today around making sure that Hunger-Free Campus takes care of students who are hungry, making sure that programs that deal with students' mental health are in place, all of those pieces, and even the work that we've been doing with our military population to make sure that we can make sure that they are well served and served honorably. All of those pieces go into our efforts to make sure that increasing college going really is an important part of our work. Same around improving student success. So this year we will have our 3rd Momentum Summit, which will be in the spring, in April, bringing together higher education from all across the state at every level this year. Executive leadership, department chairs, deans, frontline faculty. You know that we've been working already with our Momentum scholars. We have more than 100 of those, the faculty champions who we have identified. It is the case right now that we are completely eliminating standalone developmental education across the state, so math and English co-requisite is full on and fully implemented. You saw already the impact that that's had in math. We anticipate the impact in English being just as profound. And then last week I was in Lafayette for the kickoff of our work-based learning initiative. So this was... Second?
You didn't call?
I didn't. I'm sorry. I will. So work-based learning, this is a project that's funded by the Strata Foundation, and so this is 20 degree programs who are reorganizing their curriculum to deliberately infuse work-based learning into their curriculum for all of their students, paid internships for all of their students in those programs. And those programs are at 2- and 4-year institutions all across the spectrum, everything from P-Tech to English, and everything in between. So really, really wonderful work. And then the last focus to talk about is this work around making sure that we count all of our credentials of value. I think we've already talked about our universal transfer pathways, but we are extending that universal transfer pathway work to also create pathways for students who begin in industry-based certifications. And so really broadening out those pathways to make sure we have paths for all of our students, making sure that we count all of those, and a huge thank you to all of the institutions for providing the data that allow us to be able to make that 73,000 count. And then lastly, around reverse transfer. We want to make sure that students really get the credentials that they earn, and so being able to knit together the courses that they take from different institutions to make sure that if an institution is able to award that credential, that they have the information that enables them to do that. We're learning a lot about how it is that we can provide information to students and also to institutions to make sure that we do that. So that's the overall picture. There's a lot of work that's happened, a lot of work yet to be done, but today is definitely a day where we can look back and say, yeah, 51%, that's incredible from where we were. And we have a pathway now to 60. It is just, we just need to hold strong to the end, and we will get there.
Madam Chairman, can we get Tristan and others, perhaps you, to get this information into the hands of the legislature early and repeatedly so that they know what's working and what will get us off track is a brutal fiscal deficit would really set us back on this really successful path. So
Agreed.
anything we can do to get that in front of them early and often.
I agree. Thank you
And
so
bring
much for
him.
that suggestion.
Make him come.
Yes, well, he's the package deal. Can't do it without Tristan. Okay, thank you so much for your update, and congratulations to the campuses, faculty, and staff and students for their shared commitments to increasing the talent development in our state. This work is really very important to our state. Are there any questions or any other comments? Okay. Next, we will have the commissioner's report. Thank you again, Tristan.
So I am extremely excited about the master plan and the work, and Regent Temple, I didn't know you were a doubter, but now I do.
He hid that.
I mean, well, I will say this, along comes a pandemic, multiple hurricanes, and we go, let's lean into, yeah, exactly. Let's lean into this, and we're continuing to do that. So really appreciate that. Before I do a quick 2 items, I want to add 1 item off the top. So Dr. Kansari, who you all know, is a part of our fantastic sponsored research team. Today was announced as receiving an honorary membership in the American Society of Mechanical Engineering. They pick 5 members of the society each year for a Lifetime of Distinguished Service Award. And his lifetime service is in mechanical engineering research and education. So kudos to Dr. Kansari on that announcement. We'll have him come and take a bow next time, but that just came out today. So 2 quick items. As you know, we are all over the place all at once at the Board of Regents. So Regent Cordell and I had an opportunity on a very rainy day to go to the Call Me Mr. Program State Conference at Grambling State University. And we had a chance to see them call the names of 50 African American males who are in College of Education programs to become teachers. And I tell you what, you are not moved until you see that site and you hear all of the fields of interest they have. It was just phenomenal, and so just very proud of that program and excited to see these students graduate and head into Louisiana's Louisiana's classrooms across our state.
And I want to say something real quick about that, because that was one of the most inspirational things that I've been able to witness, to hear how a student went from basically, I mean, he asked in the audience if anybody had ever been shot. I mean, he came from like a very, very rough background and had a mentor that just pulled him up and encouraged him. And he said the worst thing that ever happened to him through that was whenever his mentor told him, "I'm disappointed in you." He said, "I would rather go back and be shot." He said that was the worst thing he could have done. So just having that male role model and bringing that into the classroom means so much. And to hear from every one of those mentors was awesome. They need to come up here and do a presentation.
That's a great idea. It's a great idea.
It's excellent.
Yes.
Excellent.
So very, very excited about that. Also, part of our Grambling weekend, Regent Williams-Brown and Regent Levy and Regent Aubrey joined us for the investiture of President Lamel at Grambling State University. Because you all know Regents rolls deep. When we show up, we have a lot of people with us. Also, I want to mention that our podcast, as Chair Cardell mentioned, the podcast, which we'll send to you, features Dr. Donna Beagle, who is on the screen there. This person grew up in a migrant family in intergenerational poverty. At 26, someone intervened in her life and she got her GED. 10 years later, her PhD, and now she is researching college graduates who grew up in deep poverty and what it takes for us to successfully move them from poverty to prosperity, which, as you all know, is what we're focused on doing. So I will send it to you. I had a chance to sit down for an hour and visit with her and capture her words and her learning. And so I want to make sure that that goes out far and wide. Regent Sterling and Regent Levy mentioned to us the importance of getting the master plan message out, and so Tristan and his fantastic students who are here have already stuffed the envelopes to send the master plan out in hard copy to legislators and national and state partners. We will be in the legislature October 11th and 17th in House Education and House Appropriations, so we'll be handing it out. We'll look for regional opportunities to come to communities and speak about it. Certainly would welcome you all joining us or speaking on it as well as members of those communities. I think that message would be so important. But we're excited to share. We're excited to partner. I'm proud of this team. They've done some phenomenal work. And with that, Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
All right. Any other business?
No other business. I mentioned the schedule suggestion to the commission, and also I mentioned at the finance committee yesterday that I hope that we could add an agenda item or as a part of our updates, the two quarterly reports will be a mid-year.
Okay.
If that could be something that we plan for and hear it at our
February?
February, March meeting, whatever is appropriate. That way we will know how the campuses are doing and we'll know more about, hopefully, budget cuts that may or may not exist.
Got it. Okay, just a reminder, our next meeting will be October 23rd at 9 a.m., and this meeting will be off-site at Natchitoches. Additionally, we all have a tentative 2025 calendar for you to review. We'll be voting on this at the next meeting. Doreen, do we have any public comments? All right, hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn? Second? Second. All right, have it moved and seconded. We're adjourned.